Hey everyone, welcome to another Deep Dive.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Today we're diving into the world of social media fame.
Ah, yes, influencer life.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And honestly, haven't we all wondered at some point,
Yeah, for sure.
like what it would really be like to be a social media star?
Yeah.
So today we're going to try to unpack that a little bit.
Awesome.
Go, beyond the surface glitz and see what might be lurking beneath.
Right.
So it's interesting how this conversation kicks off because Sarah, she dives right into these dream job elements.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like getting paid to post,
Right.
scoring those brand deals, traveling the world, becoming like a recognized name.
Yeah, it does sound pretty good.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
It all just feels like the ultimate escape from the daily grind. I can definitely see the temptation there.
Yeah, for sure.
The transcript specifically mentions, like ditching the traditional 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Collaborating with big brands, jet setting to exotic locations.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how that would be super alluring.
Definitely. But what's fascinating is how quickly Jake counters that
Oh, really?
with a dose of reality, you know?
Yeah.
He highlights the immense pressure
Oh.
of having to maintain a perfect image online even when you are exhausted. It's like being on 24/7.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
Which sounds exhausting in a completely different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to like a larger psychological point
Okay.
about social media.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that constantly comparing ourselves to others' seemingly perfect lives can fuel anxiety and feelings of inadequacy.
Right.
And that's just for the average person scrolling through their feed.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine the amplified impact on someone
Yeah.
whose entire career hinges on projecting that flawless image.
Yeah. Wow.
It's intense.
It must be.
It's like, yeah.
Like, we really got to acknowledge that this curated, picture-perfect life we see,
Yeah.
it's often a carefully constructed facade.
Totally.
There's a whole lot of work and pressure that goes on behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And this actually kind of reminds me of the transcript.
What part?
They touch upon this fear of online criticism,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with haters, the possibility of getting canceled for a misstep,
Right.
the lack of privacy. That sounds anxiety-inducing too.
Absolutely. It is. And
Yeah.
it really gets to the heart of what's often overlooked in the social media fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
Oh, totally.
It's got its own unique set of demands.
Yes.
There's content planning, editing, managing brand deals,
Right.
cultivating your online image. It's not
Say-
as simple as snapping a few photos and hitting post.
Oh, absolutely not. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
And with all of that comes the constant pressure to stay relevant,
To-
which I think can lead to some unhealthy comparisons
Yeah, for sure.
and competition.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's trying to outdo each other
Yeah.
with better content, more followers, bigger deals.
It's a rat race.
It's a rat race. It really is.
It is.
So it's no wonder influencer burnout
Yeah.
and mental health struggles are being discussed more and more these days.
Yeah, you're right.
And what's interesting here,
Yeah.
I think, is the parallel between
Okay.
individual influencers and brands themselves.
Interesting.
The algorithms that govern these platforms
Right.
play a huge role in visibility and reach.
Yeah.
So on top of the pressure to create engaging content,
Yeah.
influencers also have to constantly strategize about how to game those algorithms.
Right.
So that adds like a whole other layer of complexity.
Yeah. So it's not just like competing with each other,
Right.
but also battling with the algorithms
For attention, exactly.
to determine who sees their content in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
I know. And this relentless pursuit of visibility can take a toll
Oh, yeah.
on creativity and authenticity.
Totally. And it kind of makes you wonder,
Yeah.
are we losing genuine expression in favor of manufactured content
That's a great question.
designed purely for clicks and engagement?
Yeah. I mean, are we even,
Yeah.
could you even call influencer marketing anymore?
What do you mean?
When everything is sponsored, are we losing the ability to distinguish
Oh,
between genuine recommendations and paid promotions?
that's a really good point.
Yeah,
It's definitely a blurring of the lines there.
for sure.
And that raises some questions about ethical considerations and transparency in the digital space.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something to think about as we move on to our next point.
For sure.
Yeah, it's like we're all becoming more skeptical almost as like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with these like perfect images and aspirational lifestyles.
Right.
So it's only natural to start questioning the authenticity
Yeah.
of what we see online.
Right. Like, do you really love that green smoothie?
Right. Exactly.
Or is it just a brand deal?
Exactly.
But I think beyond the skepticism,
Yeah.
there's a real danger
Yeah.
in constantly comparing ourselves to these like curated online personas.
Right.
It's like everyone's playing this game of like, who has the most perfect life?
Yeah.
But no, he's playing by the same rules.
Right. And I think that ties back to what Jake brought up
Oh, yeah.
in the YouTube transcript.
Okay.
The idea that personality plays a big role
Yeah.
in whether someone is suited to this lifestyle.
Okay.
Like, some people genuinely thrive on attention.
Yeah.
They're energized by it. They can handle the pressure that comes with it.
Right.
But for others, that constant scrutiny and need for validation can be incredibly draining
Yeah.
and even damaging.
It's almost like there needs to be a disclaimer,
Right.
warning. Social media fame may be hazardous to your mental health.
Yeah, seriously.
But seriously, I think it's crucial for anyone considering this path to really assess their own personality and motivations.
For sure.
Like, are you seeking genuine connection
Right.
or just chasing fleeting validation?
Yeah.
Can you handle criticism, or does it like send you into a spiral?
Totally.
These are crucial questions to consider.
Absolutely. And it's not just about individual well-being.
Right.
There's a broader societal impact to consider.
That's true.
You know, when we're constantly bombarded with these idealized images,
Yeah,
it warps our perception
totally.
of what's normal and achievable.
Yeah, it can fuel anxiety, body image, issues a general sense of inadequacy.
Absolutely. It's like influencer culture is inadvertently
Right.
creating a new set of societal pressures.
Yeah.
We're no longer just comparing ourselves to our neighbors or colleagues.
Right.
We're comparing ourselves to these hyper-perfect online personas who are essentially professional image crafters.
Oh, it's a recipe for disaster.
Right? It's a recipe for dissatisfaction.
Yeah. And it also raises questions about the role of social media platforms in all of this.
Oh, totally.
Are they doing enough to promote responsible use?
Right.
Are they taking steps to mitigate the potential negative impacts
Yeah.
of this culture they've helped create?
That's the big question.
It's a big one. And I don't know if there's an easy answer,
Yeah.
but I do think we need to be having more conversations about digital literacy
Yeah, for sure.
and critical thinking,
Totally.
especially for younger generations who are growing up immersed in this world.
Right. They need the tools to discern fact from fiction.
Yes.
To understand that what they see online is often a carefully constructed narrative,
Yeah.
not necessarily a reflection of reality.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not just about being critical consumers.
Right.
It's also about being responsible creators.
Totally.
If you're considering entering this space,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what kind of impact do I want to have?
What do I want to put out there?
Am I contributing to the problem, or am I part of the solution?
Yeah. I love that.
It's about using your platform for something meaningful, not just chasing vanity metrics.
Exactly. So with all that said,
Yeah.
is there a way to navigate this world of social media fame
Right.
in a healthy way?
Yeah, is it even possible?
It's definitely a balancing act.
Okay.
And I think the key is to be mindful,
Okay.
both as a consumer and as a creator.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as consumers, we need to be aware of the potential pitfalls
Right.
of social media. You know,
Okay.
we need to recognize that those curated feeds are not necessarily reflective of reality.
Right.
We need to curate our own feeds carefully,
Okay.
prioritize quality over quantity,
Yeah.
be mindful of how the content we consume makes us feel.
Right.
If it's consistently triggering feelings of inadequacy or comparison,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to hit unfollow.
That's such a simple but powerful act, isn't it?
It is.
Taking control of your own online experience.
Exactly. And on the creator side,
Okay.
it's about approaching social media with intention and authenticity. It's about focusing on building genuine connections,
Right.
not just racking up followers.
Hmm.
It's about prioritizing mental health and well-being
Right.
over chasing fleeting validation.
It's almost like we need to redefine what success looks like in this space.
Totally.
Maybe it's not about having millions of followers or landing lucrative brand deals,
Right.
but about creating content that resonates with you,
Yeah.
connects with your audience in a meaningful way,
Yeah.
and that ultimately contributes something positive to the online world.
I love that reframing.
Yeah.
It's about finding fulfillment in the creative process,
Right.
not just chasing external validation.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that's a more sustainable path,
Okay.
both for individuals and for the culture as a whole.
So maybe it's not about escaping social media fame altogether,
Yeah.
but about transforming it into something more authentic, more balanced, And ultimately more meaningful.
Precisely. It's about shifting the focus from look at me to look at what we can create together.
This has been such a thought-provoking discussion.
It has.
You know, we've delved into the psychology of social media fame, the pressures, the pitfalls, the societal impact.
You're right.
But we still haven't addressed, like, the elephant in the room.
Oh, what's that?
The YouTube video we're discussing focused on individual choices.
Yeah.
But what about the systemic issues at play here?
That's a great point, and that's something I think is crucial to address as we wrap up this deep dive.
So we talked about personal choices, like the psychology of fame.
Right.
But what about the systems that shape this whole influencer landscape?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It feels like a whole other layer to this discussion.
It is, and it's a layer we often overlook. You know, we tend to focus on individual influencers and their decisions,
Okay.
but we forget about the powerful forces at play behind the scenes.
So let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
What are some of these systemic issues that come to mind?
Well, first, there's the issue of algorithmic bias. You know, these platforms are designed to keep us engaged, keep us scrolling. And that often means prioritizing content that's sensational,
Right.
attention-grabbing,
Okay.
even if it's not necessarily authentic or accurate.
So it's like the system itself is incentivizing a certain type of content,
Exactly.
which then shapes the kind of influencers who rise to the top.
Right, and that can create a feedback loop
Oh, wow.
where certain voices are amplified while others are silenced.
That makes sense.
And this ties into another systemic issue,
Okay.
which is the lack of diversity and representation in the influencer space.
That's true. If you look at, like, the most popular influencers,
Yeah.
they tend to fit a very narrow mold.
Yeah, it's like there's this unspoken ideal that
Yeah.
you have to conform to in order to be successful.
And that can be incredibly damaging for individuals and for society as a whole.
Totally. It reinforces narrow beauty standards,
Right.
perpetuates harmful stereotypes,
Right.
and limits the range of voices and perspectives that are heard.
It also raises questions about economic inequality in this space.
Yeah.
There's this perception that anyone can become an influencer.
Right, like it's this great equalizer.
Right.
But in reality, there are significant barriers to entry.
Totally.
Especially for those from marginalized communities.
So it's not really a level playing field.
It's not. And building a successful platform takes time, resources, and often a certain level of privilege.
Exactly.
Not everyone has access to the same opportunities, the same networks, the same starting point.
And this connects to another systemic issue.
Okay.
The lack of regulation and oversight in the influencer marketing industry.
Right. It's still relatively new.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of gray areas when it comes to transparency and ethical practices.
So that can lead to situations where consumers are misled,
Yeah.
where influencers are exploited,
Right.
and where the whole system operates with a lack of accountability.
It's like the Wild West of marketing.
It really is.
And it's not just about protecting consumers.
Yeah.
It's also about protecting the influencers themselves.
That's true. A lot of them are young and inexperienced.
Yeah.
And navigating this complex landscape without adequate support or guidance.
Right. And that can make them vulnerable to exploitation,
Right.
burnout, and all of the mental health challenges we discussed earlier.
So where do we go from here?
That's the big question.
How do we address these systemic issues
Right.
and create a more equitable, ethical, and sustainable influencer landscape?
Well, I think it starts with awareness.
Okay.
We need to recognize that these issues exist.
Right.
That they're not just individual failings, but symptoms of a larger system.
And then what can we do as individuals